The night air in Manila was alive with the usual sounds of the city, tricycle horns, chatter, and the occasional laughter of children playing barefoot in the narrow streets. But inside a dimly lit cafe tucked away on a quiet corner, a hush fell over the room. People leaned forward in their chairs, their eyes fixed on a boy no older than 12. His clothes were simple, his shoes worn thin, but in his hands he held an old guitar, its wood scratched and faded from years of use. His name was Miguel. For weeks, he had been lingering near the cafe, watching the musicians who performed for tourists. He never asked for money, only listened, his eyes filled with the kind of longing you could feel without words. Tonight, one of the performers, noticing the boy's quiet presence night after night, had pressed the guitar into Miguel's hands and whispered, "Play something." At first, Miguel hesitated. His small fingers trembled over the strings. Then, as if guided by something deep within him, he began to play. The opening notes of Hotel California filled the air, delicate but steady. The familiar chord seemed to breathe differently when played by the boy. His voice, soft yet haunting, rose to join the melody. He sang not just with skill, but with soul, every word heavy with the weight of a story untold. The cafe fell silent. Conversation stopped. Glasses were set down. Even the waiters stood still. Miguel wasn't just singing a song. He was pouring out years of quiet struggles, the nights he slept hungry, the afternoons he worked shining shoes to help his mother, the mornings he watched other children run off to school while he stayed behind. His voice carried all of it, the ache of loss, the quiet hope, the fragile dream that maybe, somehow, life could be different. And then, something unexpected happened. A woman sitting near the back, a tourist from California, pressed her hand to her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. She whispered to her husband, "That's my father's favorite song. He passed away last year. It's like this boy is singing just for him." Across the room, another man, an overseas Filipino worker visiting home, closed his eyes and remembered his own childhood, the sacrifices of his parents, the long nights of loneliness abroad. The song reached him like a message across oceans, reminding him of who he was and where he came from. By the time Miguel reached the chorus, people weren't just listening. They were feeling. The room blurred with tears. Strangers looked at each other, united in silence by the raw honesty of a child's voice. When the final note faded, there was no applause at first, only stillness, the kind that comes when hearts are too full to move. Then, the cafe erupted. Cheers, clapping, even shouts of encore filled the air. Miguel lowered his eyes, embarrassed, as if unsure he deserved such a reaction. But what happened next changed everything. The cafe owner stepped forward, his eyes glistening. "From now on," he said, "you play here every weekend. And you will be paid, not just in food, but in what your talent is worth." The crowd broke into applause again. But it didn't stop there. The woman from California approached Miguel, kneeling so she could look into his eyes. "Your gift is extraordinary," she said softly. "Would you let me help you? Music this beautiful deserves to be heard everywhere." Word spread. Someone recorded the performance on their phone and uploaded it online. Within days, the video went viral, millions of people across the world watching, crying, and sharing the moment a young Filipino boy gave everything he had to a song. Donations began pouring in. Strangers from across the globe reached out, offering guitars, music lessons, even scholarships. Miguel's small voice had opened a doorway of compassion, and humanity stepped through. But Miguel himself never let fame change him. When interviewed later, he said quietly, "I only wanted to sing for my mother. She works so hard. I wanted her to feel proud." And she was. The cafe where it all began soon became a place of pilgrimage, where locals and tourists alike hoped to hear the boy who had reminded the world that music isn't about perfection, it's about truth. One evening, months later, Miguel stood again with the same old guitar, though now it shone with new strings and careful polish. The cafe was packed, the air buzzing with anticipation. Before he played, he spoke for the first time to the crowd. "Music," he said shyly, "is not mine. It belongs to all of us. If my voice can help someone remember love or bring hope, then I am happy." He began to play, and once again, people cried, not just because of the beauty of his performance, but because they realized they were witnessing something rare, the way kindness can ripple through the world, starting from the simplest act. The generosity of one performer lending a guitar. The compassion of strangers listening with open hearts. The willingness of a global audience to help a boy they had never met. It all began with a song.